Good afternoon. It is now 5 o'clock. We will start our monthly meeting. Will we stand for the pledge to the American flag led by Art Murillo? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Head, would you certify that the meeting notice has been posted?
Yes, I certify it was posted in accordance with the law.
Thank you, Dr. Head. The board, in accordance with Section 551.001 at SEEK of the Texas Government Code, will move into closed session under one or more. No. What? It's down here, though. No, see, it's here. Yeah. After the
That's certification of the posting.
Are we going to?
No, we didn't discuss that.
Before we go into, I think we're going to do the tax rate.
Okay.
We'll take it out of order.
Okay. All right. There's been a small change in our order of service, order of meeting at least. I'm going to ask that Jennifer approach the podium and talk to us about the 2017-2018 tax rate hearing. No, I was just following the order that it was in here. Okay.
Yes, tonight is our second tax rate hearing, so just a few slides. I did go through these Monday night and just going through these again today.
Hold on one second, because it's not showing up on our screen here. Okay. No pressure. Okay, we're good.
Good. Okay. So just to run through, again, tonight's the second tax rate hearing. So first, the proposed tax rate is a total of 10.78 cents. That is comprised of maintenance and operations portion of 8 cents and 2.78 cents for the interest and sinking fund. That is for the debt service. This is the same tax rate as last year. The board has proposed no change to this tax rate. So just the way this works is in August, we received from the appraisal districts, Montgomery County Appraisal District and Harris County Appraisal District, the first roll of certified values for January 1, 2017 values. We published the notice for that on Monday, September 11th, as required by law. And within that, so the interest and sinking fund rate is a calculated rate based on what we are required to raise in order to pay our general obligation debt service. This just shows the history of most our colleges' tax rate over the past 15 years as compared to the state average. A lot of this reflects of where we get to live here in Texas with the appraised values that we have. And then this here shows the about 5-year history of values and the growth in those values. So you can see that in fiscal years 14, 15, and 16, we benefited from really great growth, 8.3, 11.9, 13.5% growth. We are definitely beginning to see that come back down to more long-term sustainable averages. Right now, we're estimating 4.9% growth. The August certified rolls that came in at 4%, but we do typically receive supplemental rolls after that, so we are still hoping to hit the 4.9% that we assumed in the budget, but that is still an estimate for.
So for the board members that were not here last time, when we have a retreat where we're going to be talking about the budget, because I think what we're seeing the long term is our assessed value percentages, the growth is going to be dropping. So, and we're prepared for that, but we need to show you in the 5-year and even longer how we think we can deal with that. So,
do we have good numbers on how Harvey is going to affect next year?
We're going to talk about that in just a minute.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, once I got through these slides, then I was going to go through some details. Yes. So that was the assessed values. This is a history of tax revenues that have been received and the tax rate. So you can see that the tax rate was decreased. You know, it was up at 11.98 cents in 2013. What we are proposing here for fiscal year 18, tax year 2017, is 10.78 cents, which, as I mentioned, is the same as last year's. So the calendar, the process that we have to follow, it's a pretty rigorous process called Truth in Taxation, set in law by the state. So at the board meeting on September 13th is when the board proposed the 2017 tax rate. We are required to have 2 hearings. The first was this past Monday. Today, right now, is the second one. And then we will all be back here on October 12th to take a vote on that tax rate. Okay. And then, yes, just to speak to briefly on the question of reappraisal, there is a section of the tax code that says that a taxing unit may authorize, it's a choice, for a reappraisal to occur of property values. The way that would work is the appraisal districts, so in our case, Montgomery County Appraisal District and Harris County Appraisal District, would need to draw boundaries around the affected areas and go in and reappraise all of the homes within those boundaries that also overlap with our taxing jurisdiction. Then the tax bill that a homeowner would actually see would be prorated. So that tax bill would be based on the January 1, 2017 value for the calendar year up until the date of the storm. So roughly 2/3 of the year.
I sent you all an email late this afternoon. You may not have all seen it over kind of where we are with the whole thing. So keep going,
Right.
though, but there's more detail in the email that went out that you may not have seen. Okay.
Yeah, and so then the reappraised value as of the date of the storm is what the second part of the tax bill, about 1/3 in this case, of the tax bill would be based on. So for that, the appraisal districts, it costs them money to have to go out and do these reappraisals. All of the taxing units who authorize this are the ones who have to pay for that cost of the reappraisal. For Montgomery County, we are estimating that cost to us to be between $15,000 and $25,000 for Montgomery County. HCAD, Harris County Appraisal District, however, is where there's significant more uncertainty as to what this cost would be. What I have from them so far is probably somewhere in the order of $3.5 to $4.5 million is what it might cost us to have to reimburse HCAD to conduct that reappraisal. So that would be the cost of conducting the reappraisal, and then subsequently would be the correction to the tax rolls into the property tax revenues that Lone Star College receives. So that is sort of in summary what a reappraisal.
So we don't know right now. Our recommendation right now is to do nothing because we don't have enough facts over it. So we do not know what the overall damage is any more than you do. We have not received anything official about property tax issues or what the damage would be in our portion of Harris County, or Montgomery County for that fact. So what we're recommending is that we do nothing right now until we get some more information and then come back. So the issue, though, and I think what I said in the email was on a $300,000 home, if there was a 20% hit on there, it would be that would devalue it down to $240. Mm-hmm. If you multiply that out, I think it's $15 for the remainder of the year. It would be prorated. I think it'd be $15 reduction in their tax. So we just don't know yet. We don't have numbers to operate on to even make a recommendation. So we're not making any recommendation.
So if I understand you right, if we did have another appraisal, it would only cover the latter part of the year. And
Yes,
the
it would.
taxes would be adjusted for that period, but you would still pay the normal taxes based on the January 1 appraisal. So, okay, so it's not a significant amount.
Well,
Yeah, it's based on the date of the storm.
and there's some homes that have never flooded before,
Right.
and they flooded all the way up to the roof. And I know of 2 instances where the people are just walking away. And you might say, well, that's going to ruin their credit. You know, and so it's not like, oh, that's only $15. No, they're not going to pay any of it. And so I don't know how much that's going to be, but I agree with Dr. Head. We'll wait.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure when it may be a while before we have any.
Yeah.
It may be closer to the end of the year before we have any numbers so that we tell. Now,
I believe to authorize a reappraisal, I think we have to give notice that we authorized it by mid-November.
okay. So there's two issues. One is the reappraisal right now. To me, the bigger issue for us is how does this impact us in the next fiscal year?
Exactly.
And I think that's what you're referring to also. And yes, we are concerned about that. In our next budget projection, which we've already had a preliminary budget put together. And for the rest of you, don't get bent out of shape about this because this was just Jennifer and I sitting down talking about where we were. We were very conservative in the assessed value. We're down to
3%,
2%,
2 or 3, yeah.
3%. We were very conservative in there, just looking at the budget and how that might look for next year. So we may have to lower that again. I mean, after we know, but as we put together 3%, we're going to be in pretty good shape in our budget for next year. We know that. So we don't know because, part of the problem, and I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, but if somebody had damage right now and then their house is repaired by in the next couple of months, then I presume the value goes back up. But I'm not quite sure how that is. Somebody whose house didn't flood, I'm not sure.
If there's somebody around to repair it.
To
So
repair
far,
it,
just
got it.
finding somebody, yeah.
No, I got it.
I mean, I have stories, but they're anecdotal, so I'm not going to.
There's a lot of things about this that create a lot of uncertainties in terms of what would the impact of a reappraisal actually be on the assessed values.
Okay.
Do we have a leeway or flexibility to do things that, in case we see that it's significant difference, or I'm talking about the rate. I mean, if what he says is true and it's more than we assumed it was, damage and how many homes lost their value and all that, is there anything we can do after the fact, or?
At this point, I mean, for this, once you've adopted this year's tax rate, there's nothing you could do this year, but next year we could look at adjusting next year's tax rate one way or the other, depending on what that outcome is.
At that point, we can address those issues.
But would we be able to differentiate between those that suffered no damage and those that were damaged by the storm? I mean, that's what we're talking about here, not lowering the tax rate across the board.
Yeah, I mean, once we set the tax rate, that applies to all homes. I mean, even with authorizing a reappraisal, it's the same tax rate. This board sets the tax rate.
I understand.
Right, so
I
that's
understand.
applied to all
And that's what I'm
homes.
saying.
No, we cannot differentiate that. We can't set different tax rates for different properties.
Can we, instead of varying the tax rate, grant a special exemption for certain categories or classes of taxpayer?
I'd have to go check the tax code, though
That's-
allowable
that's-
exemptions that I
don't
know
wanna
of
make
are
you say
seniors
anything
and
now, but yes.
this,
Would
We'll
you
take a
check
look at
on
that. I'm looking at Mario and Jennifer, if you all can get together and see what
Any other
there
questions?
is already, right, I did find in the tax code that for the actual payment of taxes, that someone affected by natural disaster can enroll in a quarterly installment payment plan of their taxes.
And he's talking about if,
Right.
I mean, I know you know what he's talking about, but I think for everybody else, what he's talking about is if we had one particular area in our system that suffered major tax damage and everybody else is paying 10.78, can we make some provisions for that, something like that?
Well, I was thinking more along the lines of just like we give exemptions for over 65, we give exemptions for one thing or another.
Okay.
if we
Let us
could
take a
look at doing something like that.
Okay, let us take a look at that.
Yeah, not that I know of, but I will check if there's something.
Jennifer, I just want to say that when I read your appraisal explanation, I want to tell you how well you write. It's easy to understand. Even I could understand it. But you are a terrific writer.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? What about from the community? Nobody, thank you so much. Remember, we will vote on the tax rate on Thursday, October the 12th, here. So make such note on your calendar. Okay, at this point, we will reconvene the regular meeting, and we will now go into closed session in accordance with Section 551.001 et seq. Of the Texas Government Code, under one or more of the following provisions of the Act. Section 551.071, which is consultation with attorney, status of pending or proposed litigation on any item that's listed on the agenda. Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property, LSC University Park, Cy-Fair, North Harris, Tomball, Montgomery, Kingwood, and the Systems Office, and Section 551.074, personnel matters. We will see you no earlier than 6 p.m.